The Avengers are known as Earth's mightiest heroes. But what happens when one Avenger becomes a traitor? And for those who don't know, that Avenger was none other than Iron Man, and this event is known as Civil War. So let's talk about it. But before we do anything else, like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more nerd news. So Tony Stark has always had a complicated relationship with the government, especially after the events of Iron Man 2, where he publicly revealed his identity as Iron Man 2 The World. Tony's already on thin ice with the government. However, during the events of the first Iron Man movie, Tony's actions were condoned due to the fact that he single-handedly saved the city of Los Angeles and the world from destruction. So the government turned a blind eye to Tony's transgressions. But this wouldn't last forever, which we see at the beginning of the Civil War storyline. The story opens with the superhero community in shambles, after the superhero known as Goliath accidentally causes the death of several bystanders during a battle with the villain called the Leader. Many people are blaming superheroes for the death of these innocent lives, and the government wants to capitalize on this. They push forward the Hero Registration Act, which is a bill that requires every superhero to register their true identities with the government. This is essentially the start of the conflict within the Avengers, because many of the Avengers oppose this idea. We quickly learn that Iron Man supports the Hero Registration Act, and Captain America opposes it. Captain America believes that if they register, then the government could easily use this information to control or even kill them. On the other hand, Iron Man believes that the time has come for them to be a lot more careful, because many cities have been destroyed, and too many innocent lives have been lost. He also says that they can't expect to just keep saving the world without any interference. To be fair, he does have a point. If you look back at the previous stories of Iron Man, we see that a lot of damage has been done to New York City. Also, if we go back and look at the very first Avengers movie, we see that New York City gets destroyed by the Chitauri. This is why Iron Man believes that someone needs to keep them in check. But Steve Rogers disagrees. He doesn't want to live in a world where they have to ask permission to do anything. And he also doesn't trust the government because, as we know, the government has been responsible for creating many of the villains that they face. This argument only escalates things further until it eventually leads to an all-out brawl between the two teams. The film wisely decides to not show us this battle, because there is no need to waste such an epic moment on screen. Instead, the film cuts away and shows us the aftermath. We see that both sides have suffered some casualties. We see that War Machine has been severely injured, likely losing the use of his legs. And we also see that Iron Man is now in possession of Captain America's shield. But this battle doesn't just change things for the Avengers, it also changes things for our main villain, which brings me to the topic of who is the real villain. Now, there are a few different candidates for this role, but I believe that the main villain of Civil War is actually the government itself. They are the ones who are trying to capitalize on the negative views of the public in order to make superheroes bend to their will. This reminds me of the communist regime in China, and how they often target the Uyghur Muslims in order to suppress their culture. However, the second candidate for this role is actually the main antagonist of the comics, and that is Thanos. In the comics, Thanos is the one who instigates this conflict, because he knows that it will weaken the Avengers, allowing him to take over the universe. But the thing is, Thanos doesn't appear in the MCU until the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and he is nowhere to be seen in Civil War. So I don't think he is a good candidate for this role. In my opinion, I think that the main villain is definitely the government. They are the ones who are causing all of this chaos. And they are the ones who escalate this conflict until there is no longer a way out. This makes sense because the government is the one thing that is common in all of the Iron Man and Captain America movies. Well, they are always the antagonistic force in all of these films. Now you might be thinking to yourself, well, what about the villain in the movie Zemo? Well, even though Zemo is a great villain and a personal favorite of mine, I still do and think he's the main villain because he isn't really strong enough to take down the Avengers. Sure, he was able to get the Avengers to fight each other, but that doesn't mean he's the main villain. Remember, there are levels to this game, and Zemo simply doesn't have what it takes to destroy the Avengers. And I know exactly who does have what it takes to destroy the Avengers. And to find out who that is, we have to go back to the comics. In the comics, the Avengers are eventually able to defeat Team Iron Man, But this victory is short-lived because they soon discover that it was all a setup. It was all orchestrated by none other than Magneto. Reveals himself and explains that he has been manipulating the Avengers this whole time. His plan was to get the Avengers to fight each other and weaken themselves, so that he could easily defeat them and claim the Earth as his own. This is where things get interesting, because we have now reached the end of the Civil War storyline. But this was just the beginning of an even bigger event that was coming up next, which was House of M. House of M is considered to be one of the best Marvel storylines of all time, and I highly recommend that you read it. Another thing that I want to mention is that the reason I started making these videos is because I wanted to bring comic book fans and movie fans together, because for a long time, there's been a big divide between these two fan bases, and it honestly does and makes sense. At the end of the day, we all love the same characters and we all want to see them succeed. So I hope that you understand where I'm coming from. If you ever have any suggestions for future videos, feel free to leave them down below, because I am always looking for new ideas. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, I really appreciate it. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any more news. And I'll see you guys in the next video.